Good morning, myself Manu Chaturvedi. Today we'll start with the introduction to Indian banking industry, types of banks in India. The banks in India can be classified into three types: the central bank (RBI), the scheduled banks, and the non-scheduled banks. The RBI is the apex bank in India, and it is a statutory body governed by the RBI Act of 1934. The RBI is the regulatory body as it governs the banking industry in India. The scheduled banks are those which are included in the second schedule of the RBI Act of 1934. The non-scheduled banks aren't included in the RBI Act. The scheduled banks are further classified into the scheduled commercial banks and the scheduled cooperative banks. The scheduled commercial banks can be classified as the public sector banks, the private sector banks, the foreign banks, and the regional rural banks. The public sector banks include the SBI, the 19 nationalized banks, the other public sector banks, and the total number of public sector banks currently is 21. But earlier there were 27 public sector banks. But after the merger of the Bhartiya Mahila Bank along with the associates of SBI with SBI, the number reduced to 21. The private sector banks include the old private sector banks, which are 13 in number, and 7 new private sector banks. Uh, there are foreign banks, for example, which is BC Bank and the other overseas banks. The RRBs, that is the regional rural banks, were established via the RRB Act of 1976. They are owned by three different entities. There is central government having 50% stake in it, and the state government 15% stake, and the sponsor bank which has 35% stake in it. The RRBs don't have to maintain the statutory preemptions with given by the RBI. That is, they don't have to maintain the CRR and the SLR ratios with the RBI. The scheduled cooperative banks can be classified as the urban cooperative banks and the rural cooperative banks. In cooperative banks, the same people are its customers who are the owners. They are registered under the Cooperative Societies Act. The urban cooperative banks can either be scheduled or non-scheduled. The non-scheduled banks are of two types, that is the local area banks and the non-scheduled urban cooperative banks. At present, there are four local area banks: the Coastal Local Area Bank Limited, Vijayawada, Andhra Pradesh; the Capital Local Area Bank Limited, Phagwara, Punjab; the Krishna Bhima Samruddhi Local Area Bank Limited, Mahbubnagar, Andhra Pradesh; the Subhadra Local Area Bank Limited, that is in Kolhapur in Maharashtra; and some non-scheduled urban cooperative banks. I hope you like my lesson on structure of banking in India. I will be making many more lessons on banking awareness and complete Indian economy with relevance to civil services and bank exams. Thank you.